What the actual fuck is the Cold War campaign? I never actually planned on playing, let alone reviewing Cold War's campaign, but after recently sinking 70 plus hours of work into a review for a game I fucking love, and messing it up so badly I had to throw the entire thing out.
What the fuck? Everything's fucking around.
I very maturely decided to react like an adult, also kind of in the same way every 18-year-old does to being dumped. Get blackout drunk and find something ugly and easy for a quick and disgusting romp before I sober up and pretend it never happened. Unfortunately for me, in my drunken stupor I stumbled into the poorly lit and sticky floored shithole that is my local CEX, and after a short conversation with someone who looked like they were deathly afraid of shampoo, I ended up taking home Call of Duty Cold War. And instead of a light-hearted but disgusting romp, I ended up tied to the bed and getting spanked so hard I'm certain I've been permanently scarred, and now the sound of flesh being beaten gives me a stiffy that could rival Big Ben in structural integrity. Which, if we're being honest, made watching Rocky with my dad this weekend pretty fucking awkward. Before this game, I hadn't played a Call of Duty campaign since about Modern Warfare 3. Less because of any problem with COD directly, and more because of the issues I have with the first-person shooter genre as a whole. COD to me came to encapsulate all of the worst features of this genre, and really any game that follows a yearly release schedule. Bland and unoriginal copy-pasted content, often trying to recapture the magic of one of the more popular games they made in the past, without adding anything new. Buggy and broken game systems that are just about patched into a working state by the time the next release comes out, with only very few games in this genre willing to take the risks required to make something beautiful. If you want my 20-second review of this game, I can simply say that Cold War's campaign seems confused as to what it wants to be. While most of this game is just furiously sucking Black Ops' cock, the very few times it stops to catch its breath resulted in pretty unique and interesting content. The issue is this happens so sporadically I can't in good faith say this was anything more than a fluke. The opening mission to the game really sets you up for what's to come throughout, though probably not in the way the developers originally intended. It opens with a one-for-one recreation of the opening shot from Black Ops, just in case you hadn't realised whose dick was in this game's mouth already, then provides you a fail state 10 seconds into the first gunfight, followed by a bland and nonsensical level design, an 18-hour time skip to a different country, being forced to miss a shot that a crackhead with Parkinson's could make, just to set up an incredibly over-the-top set piece, all in the first 15 minutes. I didn't even realise that this was all one mission when I first played through it. The pacing is utter dogshit. Slow start followed by an explosion of action, followed by a slow start and another explosion of action. Look, I understand Call of Duty's always had big set pieces in their games. I have no issue with that. But this first mission seems to care way more about forcing these two basically unrelated set pieces together than it cares about its own pacing. It feels like they just wanted to pack as many explosions as possible into the first 15 minutes of the game, but couldn't think of a way to blow up the rooftop. And while yes, the sequences are cool in themselves, the utterly bollocks pacing, shoehorned feeling, and the general lack of respect for me as a player left me thinking, what the actual fuck was that? I mean, let's just take a look at that fail state from the start of the mission again. Now, I'm not saying this wasn't also heavily my fault, it fucking was. But this could easily have been avoided by not having the fail state run into my line of fire, from behind a dude that's shooting at me, with a marker above him so faint my gamer brain defaulted onto years of previous experience and assumed he was behind the back wall or in a different room. I know for sure this isn't an issue that everyone had, but I'm also fucking sure I wasn't the only one to cap this fucker by accident. I mean, sure, this is a mistake you only make once, but it could have all been avoided just by moving the dude to the front and centre or into the back room. Why create the opportunity to kill all the momentum of the mission that only started 5 seconds ago by making your AI have the same will to live as the average member of Gen Z? And if you think this is the AI waving a big red flag for a broken system that will become more apparent later in the game, you're fucking right. During the last section of Brick and a Wall, I discovered the friendly fire system, and oh shit, look! That flag is the same shade of red. I'm not against a friendly fire system where only one bullet placed into your teammate's arses causes an instant mission failure. In fact, I love strict friendly fire systems. I just think it shouldn't be coupled with friendly AI design that involves a lot of running into my line of fucking fire. I died so many times during this mission alone because my team decided they wanted to do an impromptu barrel inspection, either because they ran directly into my bullets or I had to panic dodge them and ended up dying as a result. This combo of your room temperature IQ team and the one-shot failure is easily one of my biggest issues with this game. Fuck you, friendly fire system, my mum said you can't come to my fucking birthday party. Since I don't want this video just to be me endlessly shitting on Cold War, we should probably talk about something that they did well. The house break-in scene from Brick and a Wall. This segment was so well executed I almost mistook it for 16th century French royalty. This is the first of a very few times in the game I felt completely sucked in. Moving room to room, dodging the family members, using their footsteps and calls to each other to work out where they are and when it's safe to move. This is what I expected from a Cold War stealth mission. Tension and atmosphere. It's truly a fucking shame that this is so short. I mean, this scene was the perfect length and I'm glad it wasn't dragged out. I just mean, this part feels like it was lifted from a completely different game, and sadly a much better one than I've been playing up until that point. Since we're already talking about the first stealth mission of the game, brick and a wall, we may as well address the elephant in the room that is the stealth mechanics in this game. I'm not afraid to say that the setting for this mission got me harder than a furry at a petting zoo. A stealth mission set in Berlin during the Cold War, there was ample opportunity for this game to cozy up to its named theme and kick in the sneaky espionage. And while it certainly attempted this at points and fucking nailed it for about 4 minutes, overall, much like my parents when they found out I wasn't actually retarded and that the government assistance money wasn't going to come, I was pretty disappointed. The first sign that this wasn't going to go how I'd hoped was during the first enemy encounter of the mission, something that seems to be a running fucking theme in this game. After being told to take out 2 guards silently, which I did, I then opened a door to a room full of pissed off looking guards who immediately opened fire on me. I then reloaded my safe and tried again, did nothing differently, and found a room of unalerted guards. Now, I'm not a game dev, but I'm pretty fucking sure that if I was designing the introduction to the stealth mechanics for my game, I'd make damn sure it wasn't going to glitch immediately. I mean, honestly, this shit's barely excusable. How can you build a whole mission around stealth when there's clearly something wrong with your detection system? And if you think I'm overreacting, this is far from the only time shit like this happened through my playthrough. I mean, it's pretty clear this game is trying to sell this sneaky spy vibe throughout the mission, but it does so with elements so shallow you would struggle to drown a child in them. I'm a simple man, so it's easier to show with examples. Here, hiding on a rooftop and searching the streets below through your binocular camera, whatever the fuck, you're told that a target will be crossing the wall's checkpoint, and to keep an eye out for him. And the first fucking person to cross? That's your target. Look how few people are down there. It would have barely been harder to spot him in a crowd, but it would have done wonders to sell the feel of the mission. I honestly can't tell if this is a result of laziness or the developers assuming the average player is only 2 points of IQ away from licking windows. Either way, it's fucking insulting. A new feature of stealth is the detection meter. Now, as I mentioned before, the detection in the game is a bit off already, and adding a clear meter seems more like an attempt to prop up their dodgy system than an addition to complement it. And don't get me wrong, the stealth in this game isn't complete dogshit. It's pretty passable and only occasionally has its moments of glitching or breaking. The problem comes with the fact that if you have missions focused so heavily on stealth, it's frustrating as fuck when those systems break down. It really pulls you out of the experience and can spoil the entire mission if it happens at the wrong time. What the fuck was I talking about again? Oh yeah, overall detection meter. Okay, me like yes. The next mechanic I'm introducing, however, can, in my humble opinion, fuck right off. Picklocking mechanics can be good, but easily become a pointless waste of time if not done well, and I will now invite you to take a wild fucking guess at which of these effects Cold War's lockpicking has on the game. Now, the actual action of picking the lock, as in how it's mechanically done, while being extremely simple, is not the problem in itself. It's the fact that it's impossible to fuck it up. There's no fail state for this minigame, because there can't be. This is a linear game, and this door has to open to keep going. I do not say this lightly, but this is literally worse than a Quicktime event. At least in a Quicktime event you can fail it, there are repercussions for your actions. This is just an animation that wastes more of the player's time by making them twiddle their fucking mouse around. Look, this irks me so much because it hits on a theme that happens throughout this game, which is adding pointless shit because it will be cool, but never spending the time or effort to give it any depth. There was no need to add picklocking system to this game. It could have and should have been an animation, and I wouldn't have fucking blinked, but you got to fuck up my day with this time-wasting bullshit. The last mechanic important to the stealth in this game is the marking system, and would you have guessed it, it's just about serviceable. There's been so many games with great marking systems over the years, and it doesn't take much time to look at the systems of those other games to realise what made them great. And yet apparently the developers of Cold War decided for the most part to ignore the clear path set before them and fuck it up royally. The time you have to aim your camera at an NPC to mark them seems almost random, with some marking almost instantly and some never getting marked. It's not clear what part of them you have to be able to see to mark them, and it doesn't always mark who you're aimed at, rather the NPCs that happen to be around them or just in the frame. I can't mark this guy because there's a lamppost covering part of his body, which is fine I guess. I'm not happy with it, but it's fine, I'll accept that. There's an obstruction in my view of him, even though it didn't stop me marking this guy with his legs covered, but fuck it, I shouldn't be expecting consistency at this point anyway. Regardless of that, why can't I mark this guy? There's nothing in the way. Look at these three circle-jerking thunder cunts. Can you tell me at which moment they become marked? Well, can ya? It was right then when his foot turned red, because if a guard is well lit, the extremely faint red glow they use to indicate an enemy's mark becomes basically invisible. This marking system has all the consistency of diarrhea and somehow manages to leave an even worse taste in my mouth. Don't fucking ask. Even with these shitty or broken stealth systems, the game had a moment of shine with the mission Desperate Measures. I'm not going to pull any punches and just come out and say this. This mission was by far my favourite mission in the game, and easily one of my favourite missions in any Call of Duty ever. Not least because this mission, more than any other so far, showed a large amount of self-restraint, but also because this mission was sharply focused and full of atmosphere and immersion. The concept of this mission is simple, yet perfectly executed. You have to gain access to a bunker within the KGB that contains the information that you need to get, while also attempting to cover your tracks and set up a fall guy. As for most of this mission, you are playing as Belikov, the Russian double agent inside the KGB. Throughout this mission, you have smaller tasks to complete all over the KGB headquarters that all link together, many of them requiring progress in the other tasks to complete. The mission is pure Cold War espionage, sneaking to different areas and stealing information or items to further your progress in each task. You feel rushed and stretched thin as you juggle the objectives and try to work out what your next move is. I don't want to talk in too much detail about what you have to do in this mission, because it's the only part of the game I don't want to spoil completely. It feels as if all the attention to detail and design went into this mission alone. It's perfect for the theme of Cold War, and so different to the rest of the game, it once again feels out of place. But of course, this being a Call of Duty game, they couldn't just leave this mission as a slow and careful spy thriller and shortly devolve the mission into a run and gun escape from the KGB headquarters, because much like the wino counting change onto the bar of Weatherspoons at 8 in the morning, they simply cannot fucking help themselves. This sudden change of pacing during the mission also shows a complete lack of respect for the player. Look, Call of Duty, I know your fanbase isn't known for being calm and patient, but for the love of God, you don't need to do this. Most people are capable of playing a whole mission without having to blow something up or lead fuck AI to death with a belt-fed machine gun. Now, it's my understanding that other recent COD games went in the more heavier, realistic direction when it comes to the gunplay and the movement. Not that I would know, I haven't fucking played them. But from what I've experienced, Cold War's controls lean more towards, for lack of a better word, an arcadey feeling. The movement is fast and smooth, but almost a little floaty at times as a result. The gunplay is quick and snappy, but the weapons feel too light, and most of them shoot kind of like a laser beam. While none of this is actually bad, I mean, personally I've rather enjoyed the gunplay because it made me look like I'm actually good at the fucking game. I can understand that this might not have been what people expected after the other recent releases in the franchise. All can be forgiven for the player movement controls once you've played the helicopter section. And no, I don't mean the on-rails catfish and the bottlemen section, where the first one you play feels fun, but after a few games in the series you realise they're all the same fucking album. No. I mean a proper fucking helicopter section. Now, while the heli controls weren't completely awful, they certainly weren't good either. The fact you can control the vertical movement means basically nothing, because the max height is about the same as 5 Dachshunds in a trench coat trying to sneak into a porno film, and the controls are about as responsive as the bloke they're trying to buy the ticket off. I've spent a while trying to pin down exactly what's wrong with the controls here, and I honestly fucking can't. Don't get me wrong, they're serviceable, it just feels shit to use. I'm going to be honest and say that as soon as the cutscene introducing this mission started, I had a rising level of distaste within me. Mostly because this is the first mission that directly reuses a location from Black Ops, in this case, Yamata, probably pronouncing that wrong. It was the location of the mission WMD, and as far as I remember, it was the basis of one of the more popular multiplayer maps. It's not like the game has been above ripping off its past work so far, it's just that at this point you can't really pretend it's a gentle stroke in the direction of a past game, now it's a forceful grope. Further keeping this mission on the theme of riding the coattails of your past work, we don't play this mission as Bell, but instead as Mason. Not because it matched to the story, I mean they didn't really provide any good reason why Mason is going instead of Bell, but because it allows the whole mission to become one big circle jerk of references to Black Ops, as if they know they will never top it, so they have to squeeze it for every ounce of goodwill they can. Well, guess what, fuckers? It isn't working. No amount of the numbers Mason references are going to make me forget that this is pandering bullshit. This isn't a complete attack on the level designers here. They've done a great job updating the old map and making it different enough that it feels like its own thing, but the lazy writing and forced references during this mission ruin all of their hard work, and just make me wish I was playing a better game, like the one they keep fucking pointing to. Even the surprises in this mission are so loudly forecast by the characters, I would have been more shocked if they didn't happen. Yes, I'm talking to you, multiple voiced references to the zip lines being rickety and old.
Look who's talking. I hope this holds. I went first last time.
Why change it up now?
This isn't foreshadowing, this is spoiling your own fucking game. I can see the cables are fucked, you didn't need to tell me, let alone more than once. While we're talking about this mission, I have to mention the lifting of the mainframe at the end, because holy fucking motion sickness, Batman, that was incredibly disorientating. Riding the mainframe itself would be bad enough as it throws you back and forth, but that shit while you're also trying to spot, target and kill enemies so you don't die, fighting both the recoil and the endless swaying of the mainframe. Ah, God, it's making me sick just thinking about it. I've never been very sensitive to motion sickness, but this wrote me the fuck off. I had to take a break after this segment. God forbid how many keyboards got covered in chunks because of this bit. Other levels in the game suffer in slightly different ways. That ping's gonna show up in the fuck. Other levels in the game suffer in different ways. Going back to my previous mention about the lack of NPCs in A Brick in the Wall, it's worth mentioning that this is definitely not the only point in the game that suffers from it. Many of the levels have this weird, empty feeling. Whole areas seem to be lacking the proper amount of NPCs or enemies to make them actually feel alive. And there's small sections in multiple missions where there are weird empty lulls during firefights, either pointlessly empty rooms, or the feeling you haven't hit the trigger for the next spawn point yet. Some maps try to make up for this weird level design issue by being visually interesting, such as Redlight Greenlight, which features an incredible looking base, which within it features a small town America shooting range, which is on some proper Bond villain vibes. Unfortunately, this mission falls flat on its face immediately when you have to take out these guards at the gate. But rather than wait for the car to go through the gate, you've got to take them out all immediately. This teaches us a rather important piece of information for this mission. This is actually the Helen Keller base for the deaf. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 unsuppressed gunshots coming from the general direction of one of the base's gates, and not one cunt notices. How is this not an instant mission failure? Well, funnily enough, I think I know why. It's because it's really hard to kill all of these guards without at least one of them getting a shot off. And they didn't want you to hit a fail state this early into the mission. And look, I know what you're thinking. Why not just put less guards at the gate? Why not have us wait for the car to pass and have the encounter split into two? My only response to this is why the fuck do they even care about a fail state here when they left one in the first time you fire a fucking gun in this game? It feels like every time this game tries to wow me with its level layout, some other part of design comes up to drop a shit on the dinner table while making hard eye contact. Let's actually focus on Redlight Greenlight a bit more, as it really encapsulates my issue with the mission design in this game. The mission starts without us knowing a whole lot. What we do know is that Volkov gave us the information that led to a military base inside of Ukraine, which, during the Cold War, was part of the USSR, so a very good setup for a high stakes mission. Fuck around and die kind of stakes. Because there is no way you could possibly escape from this deep within enemy lines if you trigger the alarm at a state-of-the-art military base equipped with helicopters and tanks. After stealthing through the outside section, we enter the base and further confirm it is inhabited entirely by the deaf. We reach the fake American town. The map here is visually well made and has little bits of verticality for the enemy spawns to keep it interesting. With the layout encouraging you to move building to building, you get a good view of the cool old school aesthetic. But you haven't noticed, we are in a massive firefight, because yes, we've blown stealth. Anyway, after fighting our way through the town, fucking friendly fire. Now we've arranged to meet for extract, an oddly vague description of how we're getting away, but it seems that we will be getting to the extract with an armoured personnel carrier. After jumping in the turret and driving through different parts of the base, now also filled with other APCs, we find an exit to the base and fade to fucking black. Because apparently no one from that Russian base wanted to follow us. This lazy bullshit. I honestly don't know what I expected as an explanation for our escape from here, but it sure as shit wasn't this. I mean, sure, it's possible we disabled all the APCs in the base, which I think is what they want you to think about as it fades to black, but they are fucking helicopters. You deadass can look me in the eyes and say the Russians would have just given up trying to follow us the second we got out of the building? Fuck that shit, and fuck you, Call of Duty. Okay, if it wasn't obvious already, there's a pretty important aspect of the game that I've been avoiding talking about so far. Yes, avoiding. I've not left it this long before I talk about the plot for the sake of the structure of this video. If you hadn't noticed, this video has about as much structure as the Tacoma Bridge. No, I've been avoiding talking about the plot for this long because thinking about it gives me a headache and I didn't have any painkillers when I wrote the rest of the script, so just let me get ready. Now look. I understand buying a Call of Duty game for the plot would be like getting a hooker because you like watching her count the money afterwards. Sure, it's not really the point, but if she can't do it very well, it's really going to sour the experience when a pimp places your teeth on the curb because he thinks you've underpaid. Now I'm not going to go into extreme detail of the plot, more point out a few of the issues I had, starting with the nukes. Now for those of you that don't know, the plot of the game focuses on locating a nuke that went missing from a secret American operation, Greenlight. The idea is that in the 50s, the CIA put a nuclear warhead inside of every major city in Europe in case of a Russian invasion. Now, while this plan may sound batshit insane and unbelievable, I invite you to go and read declassified CIA documents and operations from around this time, such as when they were planning to detonate a nuke on the surface of the moon just to boost people's morale during the space race, or MKUltra, an actual attempt at mind control that involved experimenting on the American population without their knowledge. I'm not saying that the idea of Operation Greenlight isn't batshit, it certainly is. I'm just saying it's the most believable part of the plot that involves the nukes. My first issue with the nukes is the scene from the end of Fractured Jaw, in which a nuke is removed from the frontline base in Vietnam in the midst of a massive battle. Now, they do try to explain the existence of this nuke away with, spoiler alert, the fact that this mission is actually taking place in a fake memory. But I've seen better nuke insertions in badly drawn Fallout porn. I mean, why would it be kept on a frontline base? There are plenty of places to keep a nuke where it's not at a daily risk of falling into the hands of the enemy forces, surely. The closest we get to an explanation for this is Adler saying,
"It's a failsafe, that's all you need to know."
Well, if it's a failsafe, that means it's there to make sure the base never gets captured, right? Like a last man blows the bridge type deal. Then why is it being removed from the base right after an attack? Why is it being removed on a helicopter before you've actually secured the surrounding area, even though you've just seen multiple helicopters get shot down? I mean, really, they haven't even finished burning yet and you're already taking a fucking nuke into the air? Whose plan is this? If the original plan was to nuke the base if it got overrun, I mean, yikes. But don't pussy out when the base is actually in danger. Stick to your fucking plans, even if they are batshit. If this is supposed to be a keystone memory for mind control, as the game later implies, you would think they'd make it at least a little bit more believable. Regardless, I know this issue is more of a nitpick than a larger issue. Maybe mind control memories don't have to be very accurate. If Charles Manson was alive, I'm sure we could have asked him. Anyway it goes, I'm still chalking this up to poor writing. On the subject of poor writing, let's talk about my second issue with the nukes in this game. For some quick context, after finding the nuclear scientists that have been working on the stolen bomb, they say this.
He forced us to reverse engineer the detonation codes. Give him full access to Greenlight.
What?
Now, I'm not claiming to be an expert in the design and implementation of a near worldwide scale nuclear arsenal, but if I was doing it, now just hear me out, I would maybe use a different fucking code for each bomb. I mean, really, let's assume for a second he could reverse engineer the codes from the bomb he stole. Why in the actual fuck would that give him the ability to detonate every one of the bombs in Europe? Even if you knew the formatting for the code, if each bomb had its own code, you would have to guess each bomb's correct code by brute force, and it's the fucking 80s. Let's, for instance, say that you knew the formatting for the code. Let's use CD keys for games as an example. Surely a less secure system than they use for nuclear weapons. Each X could be any letter of the alphabet, or any number between 0 and 9. That is 36 possibilities for each X. If you want to work out how many combinations there are, you simply take the total possible values of 36 and put it to the power of the total positions, 15. Let's come back to this. Now, let's make a random one like this. And let's throw it into a password security checker to see how long it would take to brute force in our modern age on a household computer, which, bear in mind, is way more powerful than anything they had in the 80s.
So FSWIN. Oh, 100 milliseconds. Okay, see, not very secure, is it? E751H. Okay, 4 years. That's a little bit. Oh, 200 years. F9 MLF. Oh! Oh! Yeah.
That's probably because that bit of maths I said we'd come back to gives us 221 sextillion, 703 quintillion, 919 quadrillion, 720 trillion, 733 billion possibilities. And those zeros at the end probably all have numbers too, but I couldn't be bothered to find a calculator accurate enough. Do you understand my complaint yet? This complete failure of basic logic only exists to push the stakes of the plot up in time for the climax of the campaign. Surely there is a better way to do this. It feels like they put this scene in just to piss off neurotic cunts like me. The stakes could have stayed at one missing nuke, and I reckon that would have been enough, but the writers wanted to have the highest stakes possible, even if it makes no fucking sense. Right, before we talk about the ending to this game, we should probably talk a bit about the single personality trait. I mean characters. Yes. Characters. Honestly, this might have been the hardest part to write about, and I do not mean that in a good way. The characters are all so one note, they make this sound like a fucking melody. Which wouldn't be that much of an issue if it wasn't for the fact the game at points clearly wants me to care about them or their incredibly predictable deaths. Most every person involved in the plot is incredibly generic and forgettable. All of the male characters are caricatures of 80s action film heroes, overly masculine meatheads with serious attitude problems, all of which culminate into the voice lines so cringy I'm almost certain they're against the Geneva Convention.
You don't have to, sir.
Yeah, then a lot of innocent people are gonna die.
What the hell are you talking about? You know who we are?
Every mission we go on is illegal. You knew the nuke was from Greenlight, didn't tell us. Maybe I can knock the truth out of you.
The one female character feels about as token as you can get, having basically no personality besides being painfully English. And I know what you're thinking, there was another female character, yes. And one mistake in this conversation leads to her execution, the second time she's on screen. Even if she doesn't die here, you never see her again, so it's not exactly what I'd call fleshed out or relevant. The pace and focus of the missions mean you don't really get much time for character development outside of the cutscenes, and most of that is just them shouting at each other or dumping exposition for the plot. There are of course the safe house sections of the game, but these seem to serve more as a place to do the puzzles for the extra missions than a place to get background on the characters. I mean, sure, it's there, but there's not very much, and it's not very specific, and it doesn't show us much about who the characters are as people. I've listened to every one of their conversations and idle chats, and I can in good faith tell you it did fuck all as far as making them more real. I feel like I'd be doing a disservice to this section of the video if I didn't discuss the main character death in the game, partly because it kicks off the climax to the plot, but mostly because it's a perfect summary of what is wrong with the characters. Right, so if almost every movie, TV show or game I've ever seen or played has taught me anything, it's that when two characters suddenly begin flirting or talking about what they're going to do when they get out of here, at least one of those fuckers is about to become garlic bread. I'm honestly getting tired of this game's consistent insistence on foreshadowing the upcoming events of the story with all the subtlety of a cracked out bull in a china shop. Not that it fucking matters, because even without all the blatant foreshadowing, the choice of which of these two to save and the subsequent death it causes would still have all of the impact of an underwater Nerf gun. What the developers appear to have done is realise that no one fucking cares about either of these characters, and therefore they've thrown in a bunch of lovers dialogue to the mission to try and make them seem like picking between these two lovers is a hard choice. And I know they kind of try to set it up with a conversation between them during a safe house mission, but 90% of players would have missed that shit, and even though I've seen it, the only reason I ended up choosing Park is because she sounds like she could make a banging cup of tea and I wanted to make the Queen proud. So, I guess it's about time we discuss the climax of the game. Now, following the death I was just speaking about, you were recovered by your team but are very badly wounded. So your team injects you in the eye and sends you into a memory. Just stay with me here. I'll admit it, I wanted to like this game so badly that when the mission began playing, I got a little excited and carried away. I got this feeling of awe created by the excellent level design. I mean, seriously, this level is beautifully made. Each loop of the mission changing slightly and becoming more distorted and surreal was fucking awesome. It wasn't really until after the mission ended and the gameplay wasn't distracting me that the sinking realization kicked in that the game had just ripped off a few much better games right in front of my eyes, and my dumb ass had missed it. For instance, the concept of having a narrator tell you where to go, with the option of disobeying them causing the story they're telling to change, would have been original if the Stanley Parable hadn't done it in 2013. The use of non-Euclidean geometry would have been more impressive if it wasn't just a more extreme version of what they did in Black Ops. And honestly, I can't believe how brazenly they ripped this last one off, because the last two cases could have been chalked up to inspired by, but this shit is just blatant. But the reveal that a character had been under mind control the whole time, shown to us through a series of flashbacks from our perspective of the character that was controlling us using a trigger phrase that was right under our noses the whole time, would have been more impressive if it wasn't one of the best known plot twists in gaming fucking history via BioShock. That game is 13 years your senior and 1,000 times better than you cum-guzzling thundercunts. How fucking dare you? Right, that's it. I refuse to waste any more time thinking about or talking about this game. If you are buying it for zombies, that is great fun, but I would rather hang from a pole via a bulldog clip attached to my nutsack than play through this game again. Thank you for watching.